and the future. Friends, as you are aware, today's IPO in the market, when stock market is on the boom, and this SME IPO is doing wonderfully well. We organize this program in the way we have received tremendous response, and after a long time, I think 902 people have registered for this webinar, and they will join, and they are joining. Friends, as you are aware, that SME IPO is a buzzword today. But what is happening and why this suddenly spurt growth? We have to understand that why the SME is very important, and vis-a-vis the SME fundraising. As you're aware that market size and growth, if I see SME and MSME, it is more than 6.3 crore MSME and SME, which is a very important for economy of India size. Annual growth is also 18-20%. Separate ministry they have formed because of this reason. Separate regulation they have made specializing this. And if we see the contribution of MSME and SME, that is 30% of India GDP is coming from, that is 78 lakh crore. Indirect contribution through supply chain partnership with large enterprise, export, MSME play a very vital role. Government goal is that they want to, that this sector should increase and contribute 50% GDP by 2025-26. So, and they are anticipating increase of 130 lakh crore Indian rupees they are proposing. Employment is also created by these MSME. 11 crore people are employed here, which is second largest after agriculture. Growth is also there because various skill level and help reduce unemployment in both rural as well as urban place, and it's a strong potential for expansion. MSME is also contributing 45% of India's total export, which is more than 15 lakh crore annually. And this is significantly textile, handicraft, which is one of the important engineering goods, is strengthening India's position in global trade. That is also happening. They are also not far behind with the tax collection also, though no doubt they are small. But even then, indirect tax, their growth is continuously having. Indirect tax, 18% of GST is coming around 3.6 lakh crore annually, and sector contribute 18%. The formalization and compliances, government also initiative to so many simplification in GST procedure, integrated more MSME into the formal tax. They have come out with a definition of small companies, micro, small, medium. They prescribed various turnover criteria, capital criteria, and they have given lots of exemption, and simultaneously they have given this also, that if you have not paid the money to MSME, then you have to write in your balance sheet also. The 45 days credit period, if crossing, you have to show in your balance sheet also. So these are all things they have done. So they are not only doing economic, but they are doing social contribution also, because Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, one of the most eligible candidates is from MSME, and they are increasing and increasing continuously. Skill development is also taking place. This sector is also creating economic innovation and competitiveness, because if I see this employment for women, youth, and low-skilled workforce, that is maximum in the MSME. So they are supporting economic inclusivity and talking about the growth equally. Sometimes they create productivity, innovation, and competitiveness as compared to the large firm, because their cost of everything is less. So in conclusion, if I say about MSME, the World Bank, Forbes, and Harvard Business Review, they are saying MSME is indispensable for Indian economy. Indian economy's stability, innovation, and inclusivity. They are contributing 45% India's industrial output and 40% of total export. MSMEs significantly impact the economic generation of jobs, supporting broader development goals. And MSME is driving economic growth, promoting financial inclusion, and fostering sustainable play an indispensable role in India's economy and social development trajectory. Now, this is the small scale. When we talk, they looks like they're a small scale, but they are not a small. They are becoming a very integral part. So today we will talk about the SME IPO because that is also a part of this particular sector, and because of this sector is growing, so this sector is also growing. That's why government came out simplified rule, less capital, the SME IPO. So today we want to discuss end-to-end process of SME IPO, how to learn the critical pre-IPO step, documentation, compliance, post-IPO, and various other things, and what are important things if you bring out IPO. So we will discuss introduction of SME IPO, pre-IPO planning, documentation, due diligence, listing process, post-IPO compliances, and the IR and PR issues, and as well as we have requested Mr. Avishkar Naik from National Stock Exchange. He will tell you what mistakes industry is doing or what they should take care so their process can be faster and they can do better valuation of the company and the compliance level they can manage. So I welcome all my dignitaries for today's program. First, I welcome Mr. Avishkar Naik. He is a Senior Vice President in Listing Division of NSC. He is working NSC for the last 20 years. He has headed various departments such as investigation, surveillance, clearing, corporation, technology, and listing. He has been awarded CA Professional Achiever Award by ICDR. I welcome Avinash, and Avinash is one of the very intelligent person in the listing arena and their compliance and the process. He is mastery on this. I welcome Avinash for this program. Then we have Mr. Rohit Yagnik. Is a partner with Fortuna Public Relation. He has more than 20 years of experience, including more than 15 years of experience in public relation, business development, and corporate communication. I welcome Rohit for this program. And I just want to tell everyone present here that if you are bringing out SME IPO, the fund is one part, then PR and IR, the investor relation, is one of the integral part. It is just like one limb of a successful IPO, that unless you are not communicating to the investor rightfully what you have, your issue cannot get that traction. So Rohit will tell us about that what is the IR and PR and how the company should do this. Then we have Manoj Kumar, Partner Head, M&A and Transaction, Corporate Professional. He will discuss about the what prerequisites are there, what company should do preparation, what are the valuation aspects, or technical or complicated issues Manoj will cover. And we have Ms. Ruchika Sharma, Associate Partner, Corporate Professional. She will tell us about the SME IPO eligibility and other thing. And Tushar Shukla, he's a Senior Manager, Capital Market Service, Corporate Professional. He will discuss about what you should prepare and what are the important document that is a DRHP, that how to prepare it. Before the panelist presentation, I would like to start give you some trend in SME IPO. And before this, I just want to announce that next webinar, always we are having it on every Friday, but next Friday is a Mahanavami, sorry. So there is no webinar on this, but next webinar is on 18th October, and that is on webinar on cyber security and cyber resilience framework, CSCRF for SEBI regulated entities. So all SEBI regulated entities, they have to follow this, and this is a new concept. Everybody should realize this, that is very applicable for all broker or RTA, all mutual fund, everybody who is in the capital market, this is required. So friends, now I'll just give you some data of SME IPO, what is happening in the SME IPO market. The SME IPO market in India is vibrant, evolving, presenting numerous opportunity for both a business and investor. There are some key points regarding SME IPO landscape in India. There is one continued growth, increasing number of listing. The number of SME IPO has surged continuously, excess of capital, and growing retail participation. So these are certain things which are happening, and things are moving on this. Now I'll just share with you some numbers. What is IPO trend is going on. You can just go to the third slides. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. So number of SME IPO you see 2020 27, then 59, 109, 182, and 2024 205. So you can understand and how much fund the SME IPO has raised. 168 crores, 787, 1986, 4967, 7425. So you can understand the growth and that things are continuously going on. And it is not only one industry. They are just next slide. The industry-wise SME IPO, you can just see it is all around all types of industry. It is not that if you see capital goods, 2024, 20 capital goods, 10 construction, and 9 services. Rest, so many things. Every industry you name it, their SME IPO is there. So this growth is not confined to some concentrated place. It is increasing continuously. Now, if you see this number of company listed SME till today, BSC 526, BSC SME, NSE Emerge 476. So total 1,000 companies. Number of market capitalization of companies listed is BSC 1,83,000 because they have a more number. NSE 1,45,000. So that is their market capitalization. Total amount money raised till now 7,243 and 10,720. The number of company migrated from main board, that is 526 to 188 companies they have migrated. So after 3 years, or if you achieve more than 25 crore rupees capital, you can migrate. So 188 companies and 140 companies they have migrated. Number of companies listed as on date is 338 and 329. Now, this is one part. And second is the top SME IPO, KP Greens, they came out with 189 crore rupees issue. Issue price was 144. Then Sastra Electronics 186, then SAR Telecom 150, then Match Conference 125, and Ganesh Green Bharat is 125. So you can understand the it is not earlier 100 crore rupees issue was big for main board. Now the SME board is bringing out 180, 190 crore rupees issues. Next. Now, if you see the subscription, there is a public fancy towards this. This company, Home Food Limited, 6 crore issue, oversubscribed by 2,000 times, and total subscription money received 10,000 crore. Just to understand, they've asked 6 crore rupees, and the money has come for 10,000. So you can understand how much investors are after the SME IPO, or not only SME, now main board IPO is also subscribing 300, 400 times. KC, that is also 16 crore, subscribed by 1,000 crore. Medica Main Organics, that is 11 times, 11 crore they have asked, subscribed by 900 times. Max Poser and Magnet, this Airlife Limited, they have done. Then some of the anchor investor, they have done this like top Rajasthan Global 75 IPO, they have invested 193 crore, NAB Capital, Sand Capital, FinVenue, Craft, and so many other companies. They are there and they are investing money in the SME IPO. So you can understand the way things are moving in this direction. Friends, as I have told you, this is happening in the market, but my very important message I want to give, that SME IPO is a need, because what is happening, this is good also. Today, there are so many companies, they require fund from the bank, but bank asks security, so you don't have. There's so many startup, they have their idea, they have started this, but when they want to bring out, then they are also facing this type of problem. Either they are going to PE, and then PE asking too much discount. So that's why it is good. But sometimes something which is good, the ills also comes with together. So today this hype is creating, that is also not good also. And that's why I'm saying that whenever anybody is bringing out issue, it is not the money. The opportunity brings responsibility also. And today what is happening, there is a FOMO concept in among the investor, fear of missing out, because now money is the application process is so simplified, and within 3 days you invest, and if you're not getting, your money can be within 4 or 5 days, blockage is there and the money can come. It is not going out from your bank account, just it is in the ASPA, they are just they block it. So this is one part that everybody is rushing, thinking that this is the lottery system. That's why everybody is putting without understanding. Now, message to promoter, which I want to tell, that commitment beyond capital. You should not think that you are raising capital. That is all. That's all. When you are bringing out SME IPO or any IPO, you have more responsibility. Responsibility to perform, responsibility to serve the investor, responsibility to give the better result. It is not that you are getting money and you are don't bother about the future. Future, more responsibility there. So you have to just think that your commitment is beyond capital. Then investor, they should be cautious in due diligence. You should invest money, no doubt. It is the mad race. People are investing and their issue is opening 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. But sometime this will break also. So you will lose your money. So that's why whenever you are investing money, you invest money after doing the due diligence, understanding the company, and then investing this. Then all investment banker like us also, that we are also having a more responsibility, that we should bring out correct issue, good issue, and we should give the right valuation, not the complete valuation. Right valuation means if you are giving opportunity to investor to earn, then things can change. So that's why we must understand this, that it is not the responsibility today, it is future also. And all investment bankers should also realize that in the prospectus, they have to disclose that how much issue they have brought out and what is the issue price and what is the present. So that is also happening. Then compliance and governance and the regulatory body, they also have to understand this, that no doubt there is a demand of IPO. People are going for fund, people are doing this. But you have to understand as a promoter, as an institution, as an investor banker, that until as that company, because that is a listed company. So whether it's a main board listed company or listed company at SME, they have to follow certain principle, certain compliance thing. There's no compromise on this. Stock exchange will not differentiate in you when insider trading or compliance of takeover regulation, LODR. Some relaxation is there, but it is not that you should think that I have received money, now my thing is over. Regulator and other exchanges also emphasize more transparency, more things, more commitment. So, and make the standardization process. Earlier, we are having issues because issues were coming less, but now it is in plenty and this will come in plenty if the market is going on and the people are giving good return to the investor. Then as the stock exchange and regulator has to make this system is more vibrant and more standardization. So friends, today we have to make that this journey should be more investor centric, more investor friendly, and keeping in mind that what the future belongs to. It is not the money's collection is the important. The collection of future responsibility and future performance is also important, and future growth is also important. And if you are doing this, because sometimes what is happening, if this process will be stronger, then other people will also come and there will be a spiral process in the country, in the growth of Indian economy, that you have no problem if you perform, then people are ready with fund. India is one of the highest saving country, where people are saving money. They are investing money in gold deposits, another thing. That was their dream of government, that it should come to the main economy, and people should use, not be lying in dead assets. So today this is happening. So this message is loud and clear. This market is good. Market, the money process is also good. How to get fund for your business, but you must not forget the responsibility aspects and the future performance. If you perform, you will get plenty of money, and that will give expansion, that will give economic boom, and that will give the multiple benefit to the country as a whole. So with this thing, I will request Manoj to just tell us about the important aspects of IPO, SME IPO, what people should do, what they have to do. So after Manoj, Ruchika will tell about the eligibility, then Tushar will tell about the DRSP preparation, and then Rohit will talk about the IPR and IR, and then Avishkar at the last, our all-rounder batsman will tell us that what we all should take care. Okay, then we will have a question answer. I have already received 15 questions, so we'll give all answers to everybody. Over to you, Manoj.
Thank you very much. SME IPO is very hot subject. Everyone is talking about it, and if we see that every day, in fact, entire primary market, capital market is very hot right now, irrespective of the external factors or international scenarios. Market is booming, though in 2-3 days we have seen a bit fall, but everyone is talking about that India's market will grow, and these are only small hiccups which will be over very soon. So considering all these facts, in place of going to the routes of private placement, private equity funding or venture capital funding, many people are thinking towards directly going to the IPO. Earlier, the trend was that the companies with certain stage, certain size, only goes for go for IPO and raise money through capital market, because it was assumed that capital market is only for the mature companies. But that trend has changed through this SME board, and it is very welcome move from the government side or regulator side that they have promoted this SME board, and now the fruits are getting reaped after 7-8 years journey of SME IPO. So let me discuss the critical aspect and share my presentation.
Yes, this is visible, Manoj. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I would try to discuss why companies should go for IPO or SME IPO specifically, when is the right time to go, and what things need to be kept in mind in broader sense while going for IPO. So first important aspect is the listing gives a lot of benefits to a company. First and simplest benefit is the value get unlocked. Its value is started reflecting in the market. Second, obviously, is the fundraising, which is very critical for any company's growth. And the listing is the platform through which continuous fundraising can be done. Besides the debt funding has its own merits and demerits, but equity capital always helps to balance the debt and equity in the company, leverage of the company, and helps to grow continuously. So fundraising through the capital market is one of the most important aspect for any company to go for IPO. Then it gives a lot of branding and PR to the company without a specific branding activity, because IPO is displayed in various platforms, various people track it, and newspaper advertisements are also there. And all those exercises help the company to establish its brand. Then listing of a company clearly gives credibility to the company and its brand. because for customers, vendors, and in fact also for the employees or probable employee of the company. Because as soon as the company is listed, it is assumed that the governance level is higher, transparency is there, and continuous disclosures are being made, which is at par with any other big companies. So it even if you are listed at an SME board, your disclosure and transparency is established, and you are considered to be a credible business which has a size and value. Then obviously the share get liquidity, so small shareholders are also able to buy and sell shares. Your shares become a currency kind of thing, and by using that currency, you can do many things. You raise fund without having physical collaterals, immovable properties, etc., and you can pledge the share, or you can establish your value. What is the value of the company? Then as soon as you are a listed company, you becomes a bit different from other peers in the group. So inorganic growth opportunities come. Many people want to consolidate with you, merge into your company, or you get better fundraising options to buy something and add new capacity, or buy new businesses or companies. So these are the benefits for the company, and that's why it is a right choice for a company to go for IPO if they are eligible, and if they are at a right stage. For promoters or the founders of the company, it is also very important milestone. So the promoters' stake or the shareholders' value is unlocked. They know what is their worth, so they can clearly distinguish themselves from the other peer or among the people. Then it also gives liquidity to the minority shareholders, including ESOP shareholders. Then promoters branding becomes better because they are now the owner of a listed company. There is a huge wealth creation for the promoters. As soon as the market price grows, their wealth also grows, and they so this gives them opportunity to leverage further for further growth of the business. Then it also gives exit opportunity. Selling of listed companies share is always much easier than a unlisted company. One important component in any business is employees, and listing has many benefits. Like it creates obviously credibility for the employees to join a company or continue with the company. But if the companies, small size companies which are going for IPO or SME IPO, if they make provision for ESOPs or provide offer to the employees of their equities, then that can be a good long-term bonding exercise, and they will incentivize the employees, and they will continue with the company for a longer duration. So this is one of the biggest advantage to the company as well as to the employee, that their wealth can be created through IPO. Then offering shares in the IPO, it is also allowed that the company can give discount to employees while making the IPO. It's a public issue. So that discount would also add to their immediate fund benefit, because the shares will be free of lock-in, and they can anytime sell and exit from the company with the growth in the capital, if there is any. Then we have to keep in mind certain critical aspect while deciding to go for the IPO. So many of the things are very important while taking a decision. So what is the right time and stage for a company to go for IPO? So it is very critical that all companies are not fit for IPO. There has to be certain threshold which when achieved is the right time to go for IPO. We will discuss in the next slide. Then what will be the object of the issue? What kind of fundraising the company is targeting? What is the right value for the company? And considering that, what shall be the size of the issue? Then important aspect is promoters' contribution and lock-in. Who will be the promoter? So determining the promoter and their contribution and their shares lock-in. And then disclosures and risk factors are also very critical. Certain things would be such that the company or promoter may not be interested to disclose. So in that case, it is very difficult to go for IPO. So right stage, if you talk about the right stage, it is always advisable for a company to go for IPO only when they have healthy business, which is growing, which has a growth trajectory, because stagnant business are eligible, or even if they are eligible, they will not attract investors. So it is always good to go for IPO when you are at a growth trajectory, you are constantly showing growth. And even if you want, you get money from IPO, that should be deployed in the company for further growth. So that should be the objective, to make the issue attractive for the investor. Then there are a lot of eligibility criteria which need to be understood by the promoters and the company before embarking for the IPO. If there are certain conditions which cannot be fulfilled, or which is not being fulfilled, then the company would not be eligible to go for SME IPO or even for main board IPO. So, or if you are not eligible for SME, you may wait for certain time and then go for the main board IPO. I think Ruchika will discuss these criteria in detail in her presentation, so I'm not touching it here. And then you should have intent or capacity to give return to the investors, because anyone who is investing in the company or any business should get liquidity and should get value creation, wealth creation, and return on their investment. So these factors need to be kept in mind while going for IPO. So broader, if we see broader object of the issue of SME IPOs are generally to make investment in capital nature capex of the company for further growth. There may be repayment of loan. There may be certain identified acquisitions for which IPO is being brought. Then there may be a working capital requirement in the company. Equity fund always gives long-term capital, working capital to the company, and it is very important to have right leveraging between the debt-funded working capital and equity-funded working capital. While deciding the issue, there are two types of issues which can be part of the IPO. First is the primary issue, means you are bringing new shares, you are creating new equity shares, and the fund would come into the company for its growth or various objects I discussed before. The second part is the secondary sale, where means offer for sale. So you can sell existing shares from one or a few of the investors of the company. So both part is eligible even in case of SME IPO, but primarily because SMEs are generally at their initial stage of their journey, or size is smaller. So it is always advisable to go for primary issue than secondary in case of SME IPO. So there is a specific allocation of fund requirement, and you have to keep in mind that you cannot deviate from this minimum criteria or requirement as per the law. So in case you are bringing an IPO of 100 crores, which is a mix of offer for sale and fresh issue. So offer for sale is obviously out of the picture, because the money is not coming into the picture, into the company. It is going to the promoters or the shareholder or investor, as the case may be. So those are kept out. However, out of the fresh issue, there is a specific allocation. So fresh issue, let's say in case of this example, if the issue is 100 crore and 25 crore is out of that is offer for sale, so net proceeds for fresh issue is 75 crore, out of which issue expense of example 5 CR is the issue expenses. So net proceed would be 70 crores. This 70 crores can be allocated to various utilization. Identify acquisitions. For there is no capping. You can use entire 70 CR for identified acquisition. Then there may be a capital expenditure. So in case of capital expenditure, there is no limitations. You can use entire 70 crore in the capital expenditure. Then if there is unidentified acquisition, working capital requirement, there is no specific requirement. You have to prove, obviously, for each of the criteria, you have to have different disclosure requirement, different tests. So that has to be kept in mind, but there is no limitation on the utilization. The rest of the two, that is the unidentified acquisitions or general corporate purpose, here the individual limitation is there, that out of the total proceeds, not more than 25% of the net proceeds can be utilized for these unidentified acquisition or general corporate purposes. And collectively, the two should not go beyond 35% of the net proceeds, which is coming out to be 24.5 crore here. So in case of each of the type, each kind of thing, like identify acquisition means you have entered into share purchase agreement or business purchase agreement. That agreement has all the details of the fund requirement, and you are putting those details in the offer document. That is very much important, and it will be scrutinized by the regulator also, besides the merchant banker and legal advisor, etc. Then in case of capital expenditure also, you have to give complete list of fund requirement for each of the component, like land, buying the land or taking land on lease, plant, machinery, or all other component of the capital expenditures which you want to fulfill through this IPO. So you have to give the list of the vendors from which you are buying those things, what kind of understanding you have already entered, whether you have given certain advance to the vendors for buying the machinery, plant, etc. All those details need to be put into the offer document, and it will be scrutinized in detail. Similarly, for working capital requirement, if you are saying that there is a increase in working capital requirement, you have to prove that it is substantiated through your past track record as well as the industry peers, whether this number of days of working capital is required for you or not, what is the growth prospects of your company, and you have to justify that this is the basis through which we have determined the need for the working capital. For unidentified acquisitions and general corporate purpose, generally there is no need for detailed description or detailed analysis. Now comes the other important aspect, valuation, because valuation would also decide what kind of fundraise you can do, and what kind of let's say your requirement of fund is already freezed, then and the valuation parameter is based on the valuation parameters, your valuation is coming to be X, then you have to decide what percentage of dilution of the equity would be required to fulfill the requirement. So valuation is always a very subjective thing. However, company need to disclose its KPIs, key performance indicator, based on which they are judging their performance, and they are factoring themselves to the valuation of industry peers. So there may be internal factors as well as external factors. So internal factors are basically the financial performance of the company. So past track record would be very important, because a company which is going for listing cannot give projections, cannot give forward-looking statements in certain level. So past would always make a benchmark for the future. So past financial performance is very important. Then the business model would decide what multiple or what valuation they can expect. What are the USPs or strength of the business as compared to peers and others. Then what is the business plan, future business plan, whether you are going for any inorganic growth, what are the fund allocation for those inorganic growths, whether you are doing some capital expenditure for expansion of capacity. All those things are very important internal factors which would decide the valuation of the company. Similarly, there are external factors like external economic scenario as a general, then industry outlook in which you are performing. Your growth is dependent upon which all the factors. Those things were very important, like certain industries are dependent on the commodity price. So commodity price is internationally determined, not in your control. So this will impact on your margins or growth. So that will be very important. Then market position, what kind of market you are, what kind of position you have already achieved to. And then market P is the price earning multiple, obviously P or any valuation parameters or multiples through which a general investor judge your value. So that is very important, which will be determined based on the peers in the already listed peers, of which financial parameters are disclosed in the market, so that people can compare your performance with vis-a-vis their performance, and then see what should be the right value. Then if there are recent IPO in the same sector or same industry, that would be looked into by any investor, obviously. So that would be very important factor to decide the value. Based on the valuation, whatever you have determined, the law says that the minimum issue size should be 25 crores, 25% of the post-issued capital. So that becomes the minimum. and there is no upper cap, so issue size can be 40%, 35%, 30%. So if their fund requirement is freezed, you have to decide what percentage of equity need to be diluted, and based on that you have to also decide whether this can be a fresh issue only, or a mix of fresh issue and offer for sale, so that minimum dilution norms is fulfilled and valuation parameters are also adjusted. Then important aspect is promoters' contribution. So in normal parlance, SEBI and the regulator want promoters or the persons who are in control of the company should have skin in the game, and hence there is a requirement. If the company has a identified promoter, there has to be a minimum 25% promoters contribution, which is 20% promoters contribution, which is the post-issued capital of the company. At least 20% of the post-issue capital should be held by the promoter or promoters of the company. Here, in case there is the promoters holding does not remain at 20% post-issue, or they are not in a position to give promoters contribution of 20%, then they can take support from alternative investment fund, foreign venture capital fund, banks, PFIs, and institutional investors. They may contribute up to 10% if they are holding shares and their shares are eligible. In case there is a shortfall, then promoter has to bring additional fund into the company, put additional fund into the company, and buy share just before one day before the IPO, at least 1 day before the IPO. And these shares would be counted towards the promoter's contribution, so they will remain lock-in for a longer period. So which all securities or shares of the company are not eligible for promoters contribution? So basic criteria is that any shares which have been acquired by the promoters during last 3 years for consideration other than cash, or capitalization or revaluation of assets, those shares are not eligible. Those shares which have been acquired through bonus issue of a revaluation of reserve on unrealized profit of the company are not eligible. Then certain specified securities which have been acquired during 1 year prior to the date of issue, if they are acquired at a price lower than the IPO issue price, then they are not eligible. There is a specific exemption for shares acquired through a scheme of arrangement or etc. Or alternative is given that in case there is a price is lower, the acquisition price was lower, then promoters may bring the differential price to make those shares eligible for the promoters contribution. Then specified securities preceding 1 year at a price less than issue price, in case the issuer forms up by conversion of partnership or LLP and there is no change in the management, then they will be eligible. A specified security placed with the creditors are also not eligible, so they cannot be put to lock-in or put for the promoters contribution quota, because there is a risk that lenders may invoke the pledge and take the shares from them. So in that case, the contribution will go. So considering this fact, promoters these shares would not be eligible for promoters contribution. Just after the promoters contribution, it is also important that we have to understand the lock-in requirement. So for main board and SME board, there is a difference in the lock-in requirement. In case of SME IPOs, all promoters contribution would remain. Promoters contribution, which is the 20% of the post-issue capital, would go for lock-in for a period of 3 years from the commencement of commercial production, if the company has not started yet, or date of allotment of in the IPO, whichever is later. So that is the requirement for the promoters contribution. For excess promoters holding, the lock-in will be for 1 year from the date of allotment in the IPO. All pre-IPO shareholding other than the promoter would also go for lock-in for a period of 1 year. There is a specific exemption to employees who have been allotted shares under the issue or under ESOP, or if there are venture capital fund or AIFs or foreign venture capital entities, then they will not be subject to any lock-in requirement. Then there is a concept of pre-IPO placement, and it is also, we have seen that in many of the SME IPO, there is a pre-IPO placement. So what is the reason why people are going for pre-IPO placement, and who are the investors? So it is also very important. Pre-IPO placement is done with the intent, obviously it is putting money into the company. It helps to make the company sometimes suitable for IPO or in good shape, in good financial shape for just before before going for IPO. So there may be very high debt, or there may be interest cost is very high, so which is reducing the profitability of the company. So if you put certain dilute certain shares just before the IPO, and that money comes in, it helps to retire certain debts, or include help to, let's say you are putting some new plant or business, and for that you need advance payment. So those payments can be done through pre-IPO placement. It also helps to in price discovery. So if the investors, good quality HNIs or AIFs are putting money into the company just before IPO, that creates a benchmark for IPO valuation, because obviously investor thinks that they are the institutional people who have done detailed diligence, and if they are valuing the company at X price, that means that is the minimum at least we can expect the value of the company. It also increases the investor base. The good quality investors are coming as pre-IPO, then institutional investors are coming, then that helps to further increase the success of the IPO. Then very important part is that ICDR or any other law which help under which companies are going for IPO, there is a requirement of true, fair, and complete disclosure. So ICDR has made that you have to disclose all the negative things as risk factor. So there can be different kind of risks of any business, and it is always important to put all kind of risks which are broadly categorized as internal risk relating to the promoter group, operation, financial, etc., and in external risk like regulatory risk, political risk, etc., into the offer document, so that the investor who are putting money should know that what are the risks associated with the company or their investment. So the law of non-disclosure, the risk of non-disclosure or partial disclosure is very high, because obviously it is totally wrong to hide certain negative things relating to the company when we are seeking money from the company third party, because as soon as the company goes for listing, it becomes a listed company, you are raising fund from outsiders, you become a trustee in a way, and there is a requirement of transparency and full disclosure. So it is always advisable to disclose all probable and possible risks which can have impact on the business or the price of the share. Then there is obviously a detailed chapter of outstanding litigation. So I am highlighting these because there will be these kind of disclosure in the market. So all criminal proceeding against the company and its promoter would be disclosed. All actions by regulatory authorities or statutory authority would be disclosed. All disciplinary actions taken by SEBI or stock exchange against the promoter in last 5 financial year would be disclosed. Any claim of direct or indirect taxes would be disclosed. Then all order pending litigation, etc., would be disclosed. So while the company may think that the raising of fund is easier, but considering all these facts, whether you are willing to or to disclose all these things, come clean in the market, then only should go for IPO, because the offer document becomes a public property, public domain document, and anyone can access to those. So it may have certain risk also relating to actions by certain people, or maybe some dispute if you are under dispute with someone, they can use your weaknesses, your background for their advantages. So while deciding for IPO, it is important for promoters and the company to take note of these fact that you have to disclose everything in clear terms in the offer document. The last and most important aspect while deciding for going to IPO, we have to have a very good team, because IPO is an event and it is for fundraising. So there will be many agencies or persons who would get involved in the process. And if that is the IPO team. So if the team is correct, your success rate will be obviously higher. Right now, it seems that the IPOs are getting subscribed themselves, but that is not the case. You have to showcase yourself very properly. Disclosures should be right, valuation should be right strategy for placement, right strategy for attracting the investors are very important. So it is very important to have right team for a successful IPO. First and most important person is the merchant banker, who will act as the lead manager for the issue. It will guide you in strategy formation, managing the issue, provide or be the interface between the company and the stock exchange or SEBI, as the case may be, and also the investors as at large. Then there will be legal advisor who will help you, who is legal and legal diligence and provide help in documentation, make the right replies and paperwork whenever required. So, and they will also help you to give right opinion wherever there is a question of law during the process. There will be a need for accountant or auditor, because as soon as you are going for listing, the accountant or auditor has to be peer-reviewed auditor who has experience to handle listed company matters. So there will be restatement of account for last 3 years, and also in certain cases the stub period account, that is the account after the 31st March until any date, maybe first quarter or 2 quarters, etc. So that audit need to be done. So they have to give many certifications relating to the company. So they will act as a very key persons for disclosure purposes in the offer document. Then there is a very important aspect is the investor relations and PR specialist, who will act in the as a communication bridge between the company and the public at large, investor at large. So they will help you to make right strategy for potential investors meet, give disclosures, what kind of disclosure need to be given, besides the minimum statutory disclosure requirement as provided under the law. So I think Rohit is here. He will discuss what all disclosures, what strategies are generally made for SME level IPO. Then there are other agencies, outsiders like underwriters. So by default, in case of SME IPO, all merchant bankers are underwriters, but they can take support from third-party underwriters also. So they will be brought in the picture at the time of just before the IPO is opened. There is a mandatory requirement of market maker in case of all SME IPO. So they will be appointed. They are generally the brokers who ensure that there is a liquidity in the shares. In case there is a demand and no supply, then they will provide the supply. In case there is supply and no demand, they will provide the supply. So that is the role of market maker, and it is mandatory to allot at least 5% of the issue share to a market maker. So, and they will continue to work for 3 months for the company. Then registrar and share transfer agent is mandatory for all IPOs, and they are critical interface between the company and investors for all kind of things. Then there will be banker to the issue. In many of the cases, disclosure related to the business and industry requires some expert. So industry report expert are also appointed. So these are the external factors, external team which are work, but internal infrastructure, internal team is obviously the most important for a company. So company should have right person who can be the CFO or head of the finance, the compliance officer who take care of all security law compliance, just as and when required as the company get listed, and other peripheral things, so that the company is ready for handling the governance requirements for a listed company. I think broadly I have covered the most of the things. Now Ruchika will discuss the eligibility criteria and related aspects. I think. Thank you.
Ruchika, I will request you because Manoj has covered the maximum thing. So you have to be very brief and important point you just covered.
Sure, sir. Good evening, everyone. So thank you for providing me this opportunity. I'll specifically jump upon my topic and will share my presentation. The broad area which I would be covering would be with respect to the IPO eligibility. So as far as Manoj sir has already pointed out, the companies which want to go for IPO need to comply with the provisions of SEBI ICDR regulations, wherein the eligibility says that the issuer company, its promoter group, directors, or selling shareholders should not be debarred from assessing the capital market. If those promoter, director are associated with any other company which is debarred from assessing the capital market, then again the IPO of the issuer company cannot come. The issuer company, its promoter or director should not be willful defaulter, fraudulent borrowers. The promoters and director of the issuer should not be fugitive economic offender. So these are the conditions which are laid down in ICDR. Apart from it, each of the exchange has given their list of eligibility conditions which need to be complied depending upon on which exchange the company is planning to file the issue. So I'll touch upon the NSE, the conditions, eligibility conditions of NSE. It says that post-issue paid-up share capital should not be more than 25 CR. The company which is going for IPO should have a track record of 3 years. So for this, if the company is incorporated under Companies Act and it's in the form of company, then the track record of company needs to be taken into consideration. If not, then the track record of promoters can also be considered, promoters or promoting company, whether incorporated in India or outside India. For this, promoter should be the person who has one or more, promoter should be one or more persons with having experience of more than 3 years in the same line of business and holding at least 20% of the post-issue paid-up share capital of the company. So that is the criteria to meet the track record requirement. If the business was carried in the form of proprietorship or partnership, then the track record of that proprietorship and partnership can also be considered, subject to it is converted into company and the financials are being prepared in terms of the provision of Companies Act. So these are the requirements for track record. Then the operating profit, that is the EBITDA, PBT plus depreciation plus finance charges minus other income for at least 2 years should be positive out of the last 3 years before filing the DRHP. Net worth should be positive. Now this is the 5th condition, which is the new condition recently inserted in the provisions, which says that positive cash flow from equity should be there, and it should be positive for at least 2 years out of the 3 financial years. So what is the formula for it? It is cash flow from operations less the purchases of fixed assets plus the net borrowings minus interest. So this is the formula which is recently inserted in NSE and it is not there in BSE conditions. So these are the major conditions. Apart from it, if I touch upon the conditions of BSE, it has similar conditions. Number 1 is of post-issued paid-up share capital of 25 CR, track record of 3 years. Again, the proprietorship, if the business was carried in proprietorship or partnership, then the conversion and track record would be considered. Operating profit from operations should be for at least 2 years out of 3 years. Net worth here in NSE, the net worth criteria was only for the positive, that net worth should be positive. Here the criteria is that it should be at least 1 CR for preceding 2 full financial year. Additional condition in BSE is with respect to net tangible asset. Specifically, we have seen that most of the manufacturing companies generally file DRHP on BSE because they have tangible asset of more than 3 years, 3 crores. And most of the software or technology-driven companies file DRHP on NSE. So there is no such requirement of having net tangible asset on NSE. So that is the condition which need to be complied here. Additionally, leverage ratio should not be more than 3x. That needs to be taken care. And if there is a name change in last full one financial year, then the activity from the new name should be contributing more than 50% of the revenue. So that is additional one of the condition on BSE. Apart from it, there are general conditions for both the exchanges. That is, the in principle application needs to be filed with the exchanges, and then the approval need to be procured. The agreements with depository needs to be entered for ISIN creation and for demat connectivity. The specified securities of the promoter shall be in demat form prior to filing of DRHP. Existing partly paid up equity share should be either fully paid up or should be forfeited before going for the issue. Other prerequisite conditions for SME IPO is that the articles of association should give authorization for issuance of fresh shares. The promoters, promoting company, group companies, companies promoted by the promoters, other companies have not been compulsorily delisted or suspended in the past. The applicant company is in compliance with the provision of SEBI LODR regulation, SCRA, Companies Act, and other applicable circulars and guidelines. The applicant company and the promoting companies have not been referred to BIFER or IBC in the past, and no binding or petition against the company is admitted by NCLT. So these are the basic conditions which need to be complied with. Apart from it, I'll quickly touch upon, although my previous speaker, Mr. Manoj, has covered broadly all the points which need to be taken into consideration before planning for IPO, but I'll briefly touch upon the pre-IPO readiness structure, how it flows. So the day when you plan, when you think that you want to go for IPO, I think the initial exercise which needs to be done is to understand, like, you of course engage the intermediaries, you bring on the merchant bankers and the consultants on board. And then they understand your business, they understand your business model, they do the basic financial analysis, basic business analysis. They ask you who all are your peers. You have to identify the right peers. You have to identify that how you are differentiating from your peers. And on the basis of that, a valuation needs to be done, because all these exercises, all the cost, all the efforts, all the it's a full-blown exercise. So all these efforts are done to raise funds, and for raising fund, it is very important that you get the right valuation. So the business valuation needs to be done, and on the basis of that, you decide upon the objects, which Manoj sir has already touched upon, that how you divide your objects and what are the thresholds for general corporate purposes and other categories. So these are the initial phases activities. Then of course you have to do a lot of internal structuring. So it covers, let's say, if in the group there are more than one company, there are 3-4 companies, and they are holding shares amongst themselves, then the corporate structuring needs to be done. You need to understand the capital buildup since very beginning. This would be touched upon by my following speaker, Mr. Tushar, who will deal how the capital buildup should be prepared and mentioned in the DRHP. So the entire capital buildup needs to be synced with the actions which have been done in the past, and then how the proposed capital is to be made for IPO. Because of course, when generally companies are smaller in size and they are unlisted, there is not much of the paid up share capital, and then they have to build it for the IPO. And then, of course, the shareholding structure, who would hold how much shares, and how the shareholding structure would be divided amongst the promoter and the family members of the promoter. Then comes the organizational structure. That's very important and very key, because since the company generally is closely held, the directors are 2 in the companies, and they are mostly the family members. But when you're going for public, you have to have the right composition of board, with the person to be identified as chairperson, and on the basis of that, who all would be the independent directors. Certain independent directors should be from the industry in which the company is. That gives a more value, more brand creation for the company. And then you should have company secretary, you should have the chief financial officer, because these persons are crucial for the functioning post to the listing of the company. So these are the structuring which need to be taken into care. Then of course, before you start preparing your DRHP and go into the contents of DRHP, then there comes the stage of diligence, where you have to do the detailed diligence, legal and secretarial, of at least last 3 years, and for capital buildup since beginning. And in that, you identify the issues, you identify the problems, and you take note of the things that needs to be disclosed in the risk factors, as we have discussed, and also take note of the actions that need to be taken for correction of those non-compliances or the delays or shortfalls. So that is a crucial area which need to be done before preparation of DRHP. Then of course comes the preparation of investor presentation or the corporate presentation. I'm sure the following speaker, Mr. Rohit, would touch upon how important it is for the IRPR activity. and of course, then the appointment of all the intermediaries, which my co-speaker has already touched upon. The merchant banker, RTAs, banker to the issue, legal counsel, everyone, and then of course, suggesting the IPO infrastructure. So how IPO infrastructure is important for a company, because till now you are a closely held company, you don't have to prepare your financials on a quarter basis, you don't have to have a adequate legal or secretarial team, you can manage your litigations and all the compliances thing by one person, but now you should have right team for all the activities, one who will manage your secretarial compliances, one who will manage the legal compliances, HR compliances, and litigation compliances. You should have the right practicing company secretaries also on board who can do the independent audit of how the compliances are being managed. You should also have internal auditors for managing your internal finance and systems. And of course, when you're going for public, you should, in SME, you should have a peer-reviewed auditor. So then appointment of peer-reviewed auditor is also important. And a lot of system and processes need to be streamlined in a way that things go very smooth post you get listed. And so as my speaker has mentioned, and I'm also repeating it for the sake of I'm just taking the names: BRLM, peer-reviewed auditor, legal counsel, industry report preparation agency, RTA, investor relation, PR relation agency, bankers to the issue, and tax advisors and other advisors, whosoever is required for the overall process. Now, certain aspects, of course, what should be the size of the issue? For any SME issue, it should be for at least 25% that needs to be allocated to the public, which is called net offer to the public. And beyond that 25%, out of like whatever your net offer to the public, 5% of that is to be given to the market maker, which will work for 3 years for managing the supply and demand of the share whenever it is less. And why it is important? Because in SME market, the minimum value for trade shall not be less than 1 lakh. So there are not many retail investor, small investor. There are retail investor, but they are of course investing more than 1 lakh. And these are the lot sizes depending upon the price band. So wherever you decide your issue price would be, the lot size of the shares would be as such. So for managing all that supply and demand of the share, these market makers are appointed, and then the minimum offer to the public of 25%.
So I think this is a technical point. ये अपन अभी जो main point है उस पे cover करते हैं, ठीक है?
Yes. So, just last slide, sir. Certain important aspects to conclude that before company go for IPO, they should take care of the statutory dues which are there in the company, HR dues, gratuity dues, PF dues, because without paying those PF dues, the company cannot go for issuance of any shares as per the provision of Companies Act. So that needs to be taken into consideration. There should not be any auditor's qualification, and if there are any in last 3, 4, 5 years, then those needs to be taken into consideration, and the comments about those qualification and the rectification actions need to be mentioned in the risk factors. Thereafter, no objections from the customer supplies. Let's say if you are supplying something to Mahindra or Tata or any big name in the industry, then NOCs from those players need to be procured before you mention into the DRHP, because that of course gives you a boost in the valuation, but that needs to be disclosed only on the basis of NOC. And of course, if there are certain debtors in the company which are older for more than 3 years, and if they are non-recoverable, then probably provisions for them need to be made because it impacts the profit ultimately. So these are certain important aspects that need to be taken into consideration, and on the basis of that, the company can well plan for the IPO. So I think that is all from my side, sir. I hope I'm too complete.
Thank you, Ruchika. Thank you for covering, Tushar. You have to be very brief, and you have to explain the DRHP, what are the contents, and very shortly, don't go in detail, okay? Because we have to listen Rohit and Avishkar also.
Okay, I'll just directly shift to the content. This is a brief process of issue management. It has been discussed previously. So the drafting of DRHP is to be understand before we need to understand the structure of a document. It primarily has 11 sections, but which 30-40% is static related to the IPO and issue management only. The critical chapters are related to the company itself and the structure of the IPO and details to it. We will be discussing in brief. So at many places in the history chapter, business chapter, and management chapter, you have to talk about the whole legal status of the company since its incorporation till conversions it has taken from maybe it started as a partnership firm, it converted into a private company, then a public company, changed its offices, changed its names, any new businesses added, any new products added are to be attended here. Directors came into the company, left the company, all build-up of the directors till now has to be given, provided. Awards company has been issued, any certifications, licenses company has been issued are to be attended. Next is the business chapter. It is one of the very critical chapter. As anybody who desire to invest into a company will go to and check the business chapter first. The critical aspects of a business chapter, you have to clearly talk about the business of the company. At times, there will be a situation that maybe you have written 2 pages about the business of the company, but the regulators and the investors are not able to understand exactly what your business is. So how to structure the business chapter? There should be a clearly defining paragraph which is talking about the business of the company. Maybe talking about the business of the company in one line. And if there are different verticals of the business, then you clearly define the different verticals, the product or service you are providing in that vertical, the customers you have in that vertical, process you have in that vertical are to be clearly defined. Then also to be attended are geographical bifurcation of your source of your revenues, and it is to be taken care that any use of word leading in the market, largest player in the market are to be avoided unless you have a recognized certification from some authority. Moving to the next chapter, as critical chapter is capital structure. It has been talked about previously in this webinar. Herein, a pre-post analysis of the company's capital before the IPO and after the IPO is to be provided. Promoters holding before the IPO, after the IPO, promoters' contribution are to be provided, and shareholding pattern is to be provided. Then there is promoter chapter. In this chapter, all the details related to a person who is the promoter or maybe an entity which is a promoter are to be provided, like their basic profile, their age, PAN numbers, and things like that. One thing which is critical is clear identification of the ultimate promoter of the company is to be provided. If there is any ambiguity about it, your approvals will get delayed and you will be getting queries from the stock exchanges. Then management chapter comes. Likewise for the promoters, for the existing management of the company, you have to talk in detail. You have to mention their positions, the day of their joining, the day of their retirement, the term of their period of their term, and remuneration they are given, structure, who is independent, who is not independent, all the committees you have formed in the management are to be provided. Then a critical aspect of taking approval from the stock exchange involves managing the site visit. For this, a company needs to prepare like proper disclosure of the nameplate and address should be there. Your sitting capacity should be as per the disclosures you have made in the offer document. Your warehouses are stocked in a proximity with the inventory as disclosed in the financials, documentation for right usage of the facility, register of employee attendance, asset register. These are to be maintained because it's going to be checked by the regulators when they visit the site. These are some critical chapters I talked about. Now I'm going to talk about what after you are listed on SME board, you can also migrate to main board. For this, there are brief criteria by BSE and SE. I'm going to quickly talk about it. Your capital should not be less than 10 crore and market capitalization of 25 crore. Promoter holding should be at least 20%, positive EBITDA in 2 years out of 3 years, positive PAT, 15 crore net worth. For BSE, it is minimum 250 public shareholders should be there, but for NSE, it is 1,000 shares. Can a company immediately migrate to main board? No, it has to wait for 3 years to migrate to main board after getting listed. That's it from my side.
Okay, thank you, Tushar. Thank you very much. Migration is also very important thing. Now, you have understood the entire concept of how what are the important things, what you have to take care, what are the legal requirements, how to prepare TRSP, what are the eligibility criteria. But when everything is ready, then the question is the most important part, that how to sell this. Selling is also a very important phenomena, and जो दिखता है वो बिकता है, that is one concept. Unless you are not telling about the market that what you are, what your promoter, what are your governance structure, what product you are doing, how you are different from others, till then things will not take shape. So now I'll request Rohit that please tell us that how in IR and PR plays a very important role for SME IPO, or how the SME IPO, this particular concept is the integral part. Over to you, Rohit. I think Rohit is disconnected. So it is better I will, without wasting time, I'll go to the Avishkar first, then Rohit can join, and then we'll start. Avishkar, now you as a regulator or you as a stock exchange, you are getting all the DRHP, you are giving approvals, you are facing all challenges relating to site visit, relating to their content and other things. What is your message to everybody to this part? So how you can just tell us that what regulator is doing and what regulator has to see. Rohit, I'll take you later on because I'll just, Avishkar is starting, and then I'll take to you. Yeah, Avishkar.
Sure. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. I will just share my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are able to see my screen.
Yes, it's right.
Yeah. So just to start with, I have just doing few stats on the SME market per se in India. So if you see since 21, after this COVID period, typically the SME segment has seen a dramatic change sort of. In the sense, in say 2020s and all, if you see, we used to raise across NSE and BSE some 171 crores. But in the last 1 year, it is around 6,844 crores, which has been raised in SME segment. Now, there are certain notions and all on what is happening in SME segment and all. So what we have tried to do here is compare this two segments in the sense main board versus SME. So if you look at the data, so in on the left hand side, it is the main board. So the main board numbers are more or less similar in the sense, say in 21 it was 64. This year we have clocked some 47 and all that. The average size also continues to remain same. There will be certain changes once the larger IPOs like Hyundai and all hits the market and all that. But overall it's still at around 1,000 crores or so. But on the SME front, if we see, there has been a significant change in the sense the number of IPOs have increased from 44 in 2021 to 166, and this number is still growing. And the average size also is growing in the sense 14 crores to 35 crores. And another is significant change is this average subscription times and all that. In 21, it was around 12 times. Now we are seeing IPOs which are getting subscribed 266 times and all that. Again, just to look at where that money is being raised. So 39% of the overall money is going on the working capital part of it. CapEx is around 15% and 29% is going in others. Others is basically repayment of loan, brand building, general corporate expenses and all that. Now, there are certain steps in the sense, as you correctly said, as an exchange or a first level regulator, we have to take various steps in this particular, we have taken over a longish period. So one of the important steps is this investor awareness programs and all that. So what we try to do is we enter into MOUs with different state governments or with different industry bodies and all, so as to attract that SME to the exchange mechanism. So recently also we have entered into an agreement with Defense Ministry to provide capital market access to MSMEs in the defense sector. So these are the different initiatives we are trying to take in the SME segment. Now, because see, currently the market is out of whatever we say, whatever nomenclature we use, there are certain actions to be taken which we keep on changing basis the market conditions. So currently, if we look at it, there are certain measures which we have taken to strengthen the process. So first and foremost was on
Avishkar, your voice, I think you have to unmute.
yeah, one second.
Yeah.
I'm audible, no, sir?
Yeah, you are audible now.
Yeah, one second. Yeah. So major addition was on this positive free cash flow, which we have introduced recently. So here the whole onus is to see that only quality companies only come onto this particular platform, and that's why we are looking at free cash flow as a new addition to this particular thing. Then second is over the periods, and what we have tried to do is we have made public what is our return criteria. In the sense, say if the documents are not complete and then what on what basis we will be returning the document. So this also what we have tried to do is from the we have made it public so that there is transparency on that particular front, that what we will accept and what will not be accepting and all that way. Third and foremost is this communication with SME merchant bankers, because merchant bankers are a very important constituent in this entire process. And so, if you look at the data also, in the sense, in last 6 months or so, we would have met all this SME merchant bankers in group or individually to explain what is, as a regulator, what is the concern at the regulators end, or as an exchange end, and what all should be considered while bringing an issue onto the exchange platform. Then the last part is the technology. This SEBI chairperson has also articulated multiple times that we are using a whole lot of technology nowadays, and we'll have to use it also, because the counts of filings which we are getting on the main board and SME have risen significantly. So what we are doing is there are multiple tools which are available, wherein say and again the whole idea is we have to keep our tax, in the sense this turnaround time at a reasonable level. So what we have tried to do is bring in tools which will help us in clear checking for this litigations part, the credit ratings or the employees data, and that helps the team also which is processing the document to look at the adequacy and accuracy of the data which is being provided in the offer document. Then, as Tushar also covered, we do a whole lot of site visits, get a geotag. Then another important aspect which we have been doing is we also call for who are the customers of this particular to be listed entity, who are the suppliers, and we actually go to a level to see that whether they are, means say if you are given a name XYZ, then whether that name is there, whether he is filing GST records, so that it's not that at some later point we identify that whatever data was provided to the exchange or to the investors is incorrect. I'm just highlighting this particular aspect to show that till what levels the exchanges are at this juncture, going in depth in the document part of it and all that one. Similarly, the financials part, in the sense the restated financials which are being submitted and all, we have a separate team which actually goes and then questions the figures itself. So just to give an example, this is one of the document which we had. So if we look at it, the way we had raised the queries and all, if you look at the inventory days, so earlier it was 3.7 and suddenly it goes to 13.4. Your PAT margin, which is the last in the table, it is somewhere at 2%, 3%, and suddenly in the the offer document, it goes to 12%. So these are all the red flags which we pick up from the financials which are being provided to the exchange, and then we question them, ask them relevant question, and then only take it forward. In the sense, if they are not able to explain this particular aspect, like say example, the middle table, where your say trade payables have from 406 have gone down to 1% or so, then they have to give us specific explanation. If the explanation is not in line, then we ask them to actually withdraw or reject their documents. Then there are certain other steps which we have recently taken, which I would like to just highlight, and these are very significant ones. In the sense, the basis of allotment. Typically, what happens is, say, this allotment part is run by the RTAs, and many of the times the investors come back saying that okay, they have not received shares in a particular SME and all that. So generally what we have observed is it's basically because of the lack of knowledge on how the entire allocation process runs. So what we have tried to do is with effect from July 15, we have mandated that the entire allocation process should also be part of this document, so that the investor upfront is aware that how that entire process runs. It means the people who are in say exchanges, RTAs and all may be aware of the entire process, but many of the times investors are not aware, and that's why this sort of complaints and all keep on cropping. So this is one of the initiatives taken in the recent past. Now, second one is this utilization of funds. As I said, 40% of the issue is generally on the working capital front. And since this amount which is raised is less than 100 crores, typically there is no monitoring agencies and all that one. But since, again, there are a lot of investors' money which is being entering in this market, what we have tried to do is, with effect from September 5, we have issued circulars mandating that whatever that utilization of funds have to be certified by a chartered account, the stats auditor, and has to be submitted along with the financial results. So this is one another area where we are trying to monitor how that utilization of funds is going on even in the working capital space. Then another part was on this overall capping up to 90%. So earlier, what used to happen is if your issue price is 100 rupees, that was to form base of 100, and then the market used to discover the price. So now in SME segment, there's a capping. So on a in the special call auction session, it can go up till only 90% plus 90%. So say if the issue price is 100, 190 is the upper limit to that. Then another aspect, which is again what we have noticed is once the stock gets listed, there are market makers, which is mandatory in SME segment. But there are instances where the market makers are also not complying, in the sense they are not providing that two-way code 75% of the times and all that way. So what we have tried to do is we have brought in some onus on the merchant bankers. In this case, if that particular market maker is not complying, he is not providing the quotes to the investor, then we, in a graded manner, have initiated actions against the merchant banker. So initially, it will be an advisory, and the subsequent stages will be actually holding back all his IPO documents and all, so that there is some sort of a seriousness on the post listing part also. It should not be that okay, as a merchant banker, I will be doing taking a company till listing, and post listing there is no onus and all that. This part on migration has been covered by Tushar, so this I will just cover on the number of migrations, in the sense the effect of this particular changes. So post this changes, if we see in 24, we have shifted only 2 companies to main board, and earlier years when this criteria were not there, around 15 companies were shifted from the SME segment to main board. Here, one question always keeps on cropping, and so the question is basically say post listing, if what happens if my capital increases to 25 crores and all that way. So in this case, it is very clear that how both exchanges have articulated is now, even if your capital increases about the 25 crores part, you will have to mandatorily sit in this particular bucket, in the sense SME segment, for 3 years, and post that only we will be shifting a security to the main board. Then there are certain practices in the sense which we basically, as an exchange, also look when we look at a document. What we look at is, and where we say that okay, a document is good in the sense complete in all aspects. So when we look at this objects part of it, so many these are the typical objects which we get in a offer document. So investment in subsidiary, there are documents which don't explain what is the past investments. There is no rationale. But there are certain documents where they actually go and explain whether what were the financials of the subsidiary for the past 3 financial year, what was the rationale of the investment in subsidiary, because that sort of questions typically comes to an investors, and that we are trying to see that it gets addressed to the offer document. Similarly, on the working capital front, because as I said, 40% of it is being raised in working capital space, we ask them specific questions on the working capital requirement, in the sense that detailed justifications have to be provided. Wherever required, we ask for some sort of a certification from the auditor and independent chartered accountant on the numbers part of it. So this all checks currently, in the sense from a due diligence perspective, we are trying to do. And to as a last point, my last point talks about quality. So this is one of the important messages which we have kept on giving to the merchant bankers in our meeting, in the sense the document which they are providing has to have the quality, in the sense if it does not cover the minimum ICDR requirements, if it's not complete, in the sense, say there are instances where, and to be very frank, there are certain instances where merchant bankers have just copied paste from other documents and all. So if such type of instances are observed, we have started straight away asking them to withdraw or reject that particular document. So with this, I will at this juncture complete my presentation and will be open.
Okay,
Thank
thank you very much, Avishkar. Thank you for giving, because your word of wisdom is very, very important, because you are the ultimate regulator for this particular segment. Okay, so we have so many questions that I will ask. Now, Rohit, I will, without any things, you please tell us the importance of PR and IR in SME IPO.
Thank you so much. In fact, during this session only, there were two crises. One, I got logged out at the very start of my speech. So there will be crisis in the whole scenario of SME IPOs, and that's what proactive communication can help you tide over. I'll just take you through the tech. We have our own experience in tackling with SME IPOs, and we've seen a lot of traction in the last 2.5 years. As per the regulator, they have defined a clear process which begins from a pre-IPO phase, and then the DRHP gets filed, which has been covered by Manoj, and the entire process spans to post-listing scenario. And in every scenario or in every value chain of the process, our responsibility is first the adherence to the process. A process has been set. For example, whatever communication or whatever messages that go to the investor fraternity should be taken from the DRHP if the DRHP is filed. Your only window of talking anything beyond DRHP ends before the board approves for a fundraise or before the DRHP is filed. That is the time when you can talk about a blue sky. But once the DRHP is filed, you're absolutely bound by all the messages and content. And you can't speak anything which goes beyond the DRHP. That is very critical to understand. The process involves advertising, public relation, broker relation, analyst relation, and customer relation, all broken down to various deliverables in terms of media training, to media relations, to analyst roadshows. But the whole idea is to set up a PE multiple. When we talk about PE multiple, it's not about price earning, it is about perception earning. That's what we believe. Most of the stories or most of the confusion that emanate in the market, when people don't get the due information on a company and you can't rationalize or can't put a theory or can't put a strategy behind what's the reason for the growth of this company's shares. Proactively informing or proactively engaging with the stakeholders, be it the opinion makers, be it the credibility endorsers, or be it the decision makers for the companies, help a lot to ensure that there is some sort of clarity as to why the business is performing well or not performing well, or why the stock market is rewarding or not rewarding the shares price. However, when we talk about the pricing, the share price movement is not the objective of communication. The objective of communication is whoever comes to know about your company should have a clear understanding why the company is what it is and what it wants to be in line with the offer document. First important trend is that if you don't tell your story, someone else will do it for you, and that will resolve in confusion. Therefore, proactively talking through the investors and the public at large or the stakeholders will do you good. Media has also evolved. If you look at 3 years ago or 4 years ago, there was hardly any space for SME IPOs in the media. Now you have got media which not only writes on SME IPOs, but there are also a lot of clutters in the environment, like the vloggers, the influencers, and they're taken their own stage. So it's very difficult to differentiate the information from a leap of imagination. That is only going to happen once you start engaging with the right credible media proactively and organically. And that is where you need to know that if, say, you're coming up with a solar power company's IPO, or if you're coming with an EPC power company's IPO, those are the flavors of the market, and the media will always find you. Or if you are, say, from Ahmedabad, or if you're a company based out of Calcutta, the media there has now started reporting a lot on SME IPOs, and therefore those are the kind of insights that you can catch on to while proactively being reported. Organic credibility builds outreach. Most of this IPO process has been marred by placing high-level advertising or high decibel advertising. We still believe that there's space for organic conversations in the media. It would require your time, and it would require a content plus approach. It's not about selling the IPO. You have the best of merchant bankers on board. You have the best of teams on board. The underwriters are there. The market makers are there. But what happens is when you don't set the right context to your story when you're going to raise funds, people have a habit of misinterpreting it. And therefore, what will happen is that a lot of confusion will be in the market, and those who want to capitalize on that confusion will thrive, whereas your story will get lost. So always think that if even the process gives you a chance to do PR or IR during the IPO process, that foundation will help you thrive after the listing, where the real shareholders or real stakeholders that choose to stay with you can get a bird's eye view of your story and can get a sustained view of your story. The aim is again to empower seeking you. One of the points that the panelists mentioned was there's a lot of participation from retail investors and retail investors through UPI. Those are self-motivated investors. They have a habit or tendency of studying or looking at the right platforms for your company. And the better platforms that your company's story gets amplified upon organically, the better is it for you, and the better is it for people who want to find you and invest in you. Investors are everywhere, but not everyone is the same. And therefore, the reason for a very precise investor relations strategy, if you look at 3 years ago, there were no big investors used to come in in SME IPOs. If you now look at recently, an issue was there that HDFC Bank also invested in SME IPOs. So the whole participation from the investors landscape is changing, and the better stories that you say, or the clarity or a transparent process of narrative setting that you do, will reward you to be in the line on the good books of the investors that seek to be associated with you. As always, IPO process is all about sticking to the process. Not a word from the PR agency will go to the public domain if it is not signed off by a merchant banker, because ultimate authority, ultimate responsibility lies with him. Therefore, it is very important not to lose sight of process compliance in the greed of visibility. Visibility will come if there's meat, if there's consistency, but nowhere you should ever think about compromising the process or saying anything which is beyond the DRHP or offer document as such. The regulations demand long-term engagement, and that is therefore the regulator also has been very proactive in setting up processes and setting up systems where they need to not only ensure that the person has come and sold the IPO, but how they have been able to maintain the relationship with the existing investors. One of the ways of the companies also do it that statutorily you're not a main board, statutorily required to do an analyst meet or results disclosure in every 6 months. Some companies have started doing it on a quarterly basis also. So proactively adopting to good practices also help you. Of course, the regulators have that edge of enabling you to do it as well. What we do usually in the process, we take care of the messaging. Messaging comprises of media training as to what the promoters should talk about, in what context. They should not go overboard. They should not have forward-looking statements. They should not go talk about the leading, the largest, as was mentioned by Tushar also. So the message should be in line with the offer document. Therefore, to amplify it, we use presentations. We make one-pagers. We launch the narratives usually through the hometowns of the company or the sector specialists that the company belongs to. Bombay is a critical market. Ahmedabad is a critical market. You reach out to the media there. Organic is again the word I'm stressing on it. The whole idea is then how do you sustain visibility in the process? Because typically it happens that when you file the document till the time you get listed, there's a period of around 3 months, 3 to 4 months, and that with the regulators' workload has been increasing also. How do you keep people engaged during that process? Of course, being thoroughly complied. That is something that we need to look at. And then there's reviews and reporting and compliance. One of the things that we at Fortuna PR have been able to do is been able to manage the SME IPOs as main board IPOs. Helps a lot of process to get implemented, even if the regulator doesn't require it. So, for example, the SEBI report is required when it comes to the main board IPOs. We prepare it for the SME IPOs as well. So that's just to understand, was there any deviation from whatever was spoken in the offer document versus whatever went to the public domain. So ultimately, the 4 mantras are compliance to the process. That's what we do. Building and sustaining narrative, strategic outreach to key stakeholders to improve retail participation. And as always, if there is any crisis that happens, because you are bounded by the process of the IPO, the promoters can only do or say very limited things. You would need an agency who can fight battles if they emerge or if they erupt in the process, proactively or reactively. We are a 15-year-old agency, 90 people, 9 offices. We are all from finance markets, and we have our own education and financial market background. So this is who we are. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Rohit. Thank you very much for covering this interesting aspects. Now, we have so many questions that is continuously coming. So I will start directly the rapid round because we don't have time. So rule of rapid round is that we will get the answer. If there is no value addition, then we will not add any other thing. Otherwise, if something is there, so anybody can raise, or if I'm asking question from one person, then other person want to add something, he can tell. So first, eligibility and listing requirement. So Avishkar, if a company listed on SME platform has crossed 25 crore, but has not completed 3 years on SME platform, do the company mandatorily need to migrate to main board platform or will remain the SME until completion of 3 years? You have given answer.
Yes.
That they have to. But the one connected question. Suppose I require fund and my capital is 25 and you are saying you cannot increase more than 25, then what will happen to my growth?
Right. So this is one of the important aspects, and that's why at this junction, SEBI is also looking at how to, because typically what happens is the whole idea is at the time when you came out with an IPO, you clearly were aware that, say, whether you your capital means whether you want to come in SME or main board, say less than 10 crore, it was compulsory in SME, 10 to 25 in main board or SME, and more than 25 in main board. So you took a choice at the initial stage, and then subsequently saying that, okay, without waiting for 3 years or without satisfying the criteria, I just want to come on the main board. There are there are two ways to look at it. One is there could be a chance that someone will be trying to misuse the system to come on the main board, or there could be basically because of our criteria stopping someone who is genuine to come on, means raise the capital. And that's why the regulator is looking on how to handle this particular aspect and all that. But again, there are at this juncture, the rule is we are not allowing, and there are open issues in this particular case. So I will just cover one instance. Say, example, if the company, the SME comes out with a bonus. So in that particular case, they don't typically come to the exchange for even the approval. In the sense, they take it to the board and all that. So these are open issues at this juncture, which the regulator is looking at it on how to handle at this juncture. But the rule as of now is we don't allow it.
Okay. This connected question with this, now you have given the data where you mentioned that the SME IPO average is 45 crore, whatever has come in this year, and the IPO main board is 800 crore. Now the question is that we have seen 5 crore, 6 crore issue also in the SME. So average is 45, is okay. But I have heard that in the market there is a discussion that if the issue is more than 100 crore or more than 200 crore, then there is a problem that because SME, they are saying this is not SME issue, this is higher than the SME. But my question is, the average IPO in main board is 800 crore. Here is 200 crore. So 200, 300, 400 crore in SME. I don't think that is breaching anything. And if you are saying, okay, we will not allow more than 200 or 150, then the question is where these company will go, which is 400, 500 or 600. Because cost of bringing IPO is reduced if you have a higher capital or higher market. So what is your view on this?
So at this juncture, we are not restricting. In the sense, there are instances, I think so, one also covered. There are instances where we are approving, say, we have got an application for 180 crores and all, and we are approving. At this juncture, there is no policy as such that we are not allowing or not taking any higher IPO. Because what typically has happened is, over the period, the markets have also moved. Earlier, you used to see main board IPOs in a smaller range, say 300, 400. Now it's the average has shifted. So here we cannot say that, okay, I will be limiting it to 200 and all. So at this juncture, at least, we are accepting that, means whatever that level it comes, we are accepting it.
Okay, okay.
We are not restricting.
Yeah. Tushar, what is the minimum paid up capital requirement for launching SME IPO?
There is no minimum paid up capital requirement.
Okay. So
basically, it depends upon the pricing. If you are paid up capital, pre-IPO paid up capital is very small, then per share price would be higher, considering the valuation. So based on that, the paid up capital need to be adjusted.
that is also the role of merchant banker.
Merchant banker to advise.
They have to advise.
Structure the IPO.
Yes.
Legally, there is no.
In what circumstances can post-issue capital be more than the prescribed upper limit of 25 crore?
There is no circumstances. I think Aviskar sir has clearly mentioned
that.
It's a bonus. It can be.
Bonus you can do. So that's why. But you have
no, you can't go beyond 25 crores even through bonus. That is not allowed.
Okay. Is offer for sale by promoter allowed in IPO? Manoj?
Yes, that is very much allowed.
What is the basic?
So just to, in the sense, say, we have recently seen that, say, there were, when we took the last data out of 80, there were 6-7 instances where there were OFS, and in one particular instance, there was 100% it was an OFS. So we are looking, we are seeing some instances of OFS, but more or less it is, this figure is less, but there are currently instances.
But there is one question is also coming out that there are so many promoters, they are retiring their unsecured loan by IPO. What is your view as a stock exchange?
So here also, in the sense, even in Bain Board, the regulator has taken few stances and all on repayments of loans and all. So where it's a financial institutions and all, there typically a regulator or the exchanges are okay. In the sense where it's an individual and all, we definitely go and ask a few questions on that purpose and all that.
Okay. Manoj, what is the basic difference between requirement of working capital and general purpose?
So working capital, there is no limit. If you can justify your working capital need and you need working capital, long-term working capital, you can bring public issue. So entire fund can be utilized for working capital requirement, subject to obviously various tests provided. But for general corporate purpose, the maximum limit is 25% of the total issues, net offering to the public.
Okay. Avishkar, is it possible to do promoterless IPO?
Yes, there are professionally managed companies, but typically in SME we have not looked. We have not seen any professionally managed company. In Main Board there are coming.
Okay. I asked you a question, the repayment of existing loan. Is there any limit capping on this for IPO? That I have to repayment of loan, so you cannot repayment of loan out of this IPO proceeds?
No, I don't think so. That's any limit.
Okay. Rohit, what do you feel that when OFS is coming or the money is going to the public, money is going to the company or money is going to the promoter or retirement of this, what investor looks and see this?
So if the money is going to the public, the company, then the promoter treats it as some sort of growth capital, even if working capital is being taken care of. But when the money goes to the promoter, see, when the investor perception is concerned, 90% of people who invest in SME IPOs from the large investor perspective, they invest in the promoter. So promoter's integrity or credibility holds a major role. So again, when it comes to OFS, then they have to be very sure as to what the promoter's intent is to do with the money, whether that in some form or the other can come to the company if requirement happens. Therefore, that's the difference between the two. One is the growth capital, and then the other is solely the intent of the promoter.
Okay. Avishkar, you have given answer, but I'm just asking, what is an average OFS portion in the SME IPO in recent past?
So it was say out of that 80 which I said, it was at around 6-7% only that. But
Okay.
one complete OFS was 100% OFS, that one instance of IPO.
Okay. So 25% for OFS and 75 fresh issue. Is this fixed ratio or flexible?
No, it was just an example given by me. So don't
Okay.
take it as a mandatory requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can pre-IPO price be greater than the actual price decided for IPO?
Pre-IPO
Yes.
placement? No, generally it will be certain discount because obviously the persons who are putting money into pre-IPO would get a lock-in for 1 year post-IPO. So there will be around 15 months journey and they have to take risk of long-term investment. So obviously that price is generally 10 to 20% discount minimum than the IPO price.
Okay. How is the company valued in an IPO? Is the issue price fixed or discovered through the price discovery mechanism?
So both processes available, fixed price issue as well as book built issue is available in SME IPO also. So if it is a book built issue, obviously the price discovery happens through book building. But that in case of main board IPO, generally the difference between the lower and upper band is 20%, which is the maximum allowed. But in SME, that much gap is not there. So it is nearby.
Avishkar, what is the average? How many fixed issue or in this particular year in the book build issue?
No, sir, I will not have. I didn't have done that the exact.
Sir, generally all big size issues, maybe let's say 30 crore, 40 crore plus issues are coming in book build category because it gives flexibility to have anchor investment to stabilize the price, establish the price. And for a smaller size issue, generally they are fixed price.
Okay. Ruchika, what is the lock-in period for pre-IPO placement investor?
Sir, it is for 1 year.
Okay. Okay, what points should be kept in mind while drafting RHP in respect of query raised by the stock exchange, Tushar?
We covered it all in the slides, so you can refer it.
Okay.
Recording.
Avishkar, what is your experience when you raise query, the merchant banker reply, the company reply? Even then, they are not clear. You have to go and you are again asking questions. So, what is your experience?
Yes, sir. So if we look at it, the SME has its own challenges. Challenges in the sense that typically the merchant bankers are not the larger ones, like it's all new. There are instances where a typical new merchant banker would have entered and he would have brought an SME IPO and all that one. So when we look at that typical documents and all, many of the times, say in the business part itself, they are not able to explain properly what is the nature of the business which the company is doing. And after multiple to and fro's, what we have also tried to do is also start to speak to the promoters, because the promoters generally know what business they are doing and all. Because what is written and what they actually do, there's a significant difference and all that. So what we try to do is just instead of asking, withdrawing or rejecting that document, as a last resort, we also speak to the promoter to understand, and then when we are not very sure, means not clear where that money is going, then we ask him to withdraw and or reject.
Okay. Is it mandatory to get the industry report prepared for independent agency like main board IPO, or same can be prepared by company in-house?
Can be done by company in-house, sir.
Okay.
There is no mandation.
Okay, underwriting and
Even for main board IPO, there is no mandation. However, it gives it authenticity to the data, and hence it is taken in large size IPOs.
Underwriting and merchant banker, how exactly does market making work? What happens when the market maker shares get exhausted? From which pool does the stock get replenished? Vishkar?
So once it is exhausted, then typically it ends, and that means then he doesn't get it replenished and all that.
Okay. How can a retail investor successfully subscribe to an SME IPO?
There is no guarantee of success of investment. Why are you so worried? Any investor should not be worried about investing in particular company.
Can you tell because 10 crore issue when there is a 1,000 crore rupees has come, so how people will get, and if he's getting that, say people thinking it's a lottery.
So I'll tell you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Rohit, the question is yours.
Yeah. So one of the interesting interactions I had with two young kids in an elevator in Ahmedabad. Now, if you look at 2022, 23, 24, aged till 30, average salary in hinterlands, like the top four metro hata do, so it is around 12,000 to 15,000. मतलब 2 lakh रुपया साल का average salary, at the good level. Now, their rationale is that if suppose one IPO works, paisa ja nahi raha hai, you are anyhow investing, you get the entire year's salary in one go. See, that is the hope that is driving this industry. It is not about, see, one, people are definitely, it's the same 90s ka stock market which was there in 1990s, the main boards which were undergoing a whole confusion era. The same is with the SMEs right now. But if you look at, the aspiration has not changed. So that is what drives 10 crore mein 1,000 crores. Some of it is definitely long-term investment, but largely it is fear of missing out. But it's not fear of missing out. It is actually creating value in a short time. That's how we'll talk about it actually.
So when somebody is saying this is a manipulation in the market or this is hue and cry, then how we can say, Avishkar? Because today, everybody, I met one investor. He purchased some company shares at a highest level on that day when it is open. And then he asked me some questions. So I asked him, are you aware about this company? He told, yes, I am aware. This is this company. Then I told, no, this is not that company. So he is not aware that where I am investing, what this company is doing.
Right.
That is the biggest challenge.
Yes.
So that is a everybody, the way Demat account is opening, the way things are opening. the way Rohit is giving example, everybody is thinking because, and I was telling somebody that day, ASPA is responsible for this because money is not going out. So let's try. So everybody is putting without seeing. They are saying lottery hai, lag jayegi Sikkim lottery ki tarah kahin na kahin kuch to lag jayega. Okay.
So just one, so sorry about it, and you would be knowing many promoters now. Most of the promoters that we have worked with, in fact, they have either rejoined their family business after a stint internationally, or very young people collaborating, engineers or something. So the story of SME IPO has to be looked from an aspiration angle also. There are a lot of people who are wanting to do a lot of good stuff. There are definitely bad apples, but I think the good apples are much more and more promising now.
Yes, yes. Can non-HNI also invest in pre-IPO?
Yes, anyone can invest in pre-IPO.
Okay. Some exit strategy and post-IPO liquidity. Sometimes it is said that companies in pre-IPO stage. What does pre-IPO exactly mean?
It is just a commercial term. Any issue of capital just after announcing that company is going for IPO is called pre-IPO. So that means if you are already in the preparatory stage for IPO filing and you bring out private placement, that is pre-IPO placement, basically.
Okay, Tushar, even post-listing, can SME company gives ESOP at a discount price to company due to employees?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could it be possible for listed company on BSE to issue securities on SME exchange? I think this question. Huh?
So he can typically go on both exchanges also, but typically because there is a cost involved, they list typically on one exchange only. That.
Yeah.
But it is allowed, both the stock
Legally
exchange.
allowed, yes, yes.
Okay. But who there will be one stock exchange will be the main stock exchange?
In the sense, he has to satisfy the criteria at both the exchanges that will both have their eligibility criteria.
Okay. Is there any minimum post-qualification experience required for CS, CFO or SME IPO company? Any informal guidance issued by stock exchange in this regard?
So this, as I said, we have a full formal process on how we take each document and all that one. So when we were looking at this documents which are being filed and all, there are instances where, say, example, your CFO, he is, say, only having a month experience, 2 months experience and all, and he is being termed as a CFO in that particular organization. So what we have tried to articulate is, so once listed, you have a major responsibility. So we definitely are not very comfortable having someone, an inexperienced person and all, as your CFO, CS and all. And that same opinion we tell the merchant bankers upfront.
Okay.
But there's no limitation as such.
Okay. Manoj, what is the minimum size of IPO in case of pharma online trading sector or tourism sector?
For any of the issue, there is no fixed criteria for the size. So you have to see what is the stage of the company, what is the value of the company, and how
You
much
have to justify.
Yes, and you have to justify accordingly.
Okay. In case of partnership converted into public limited during the month of August 24, when it can go to SME IPO, the partnership is 10 years old, but they have converted into company in August 24.
They can
Their
right
track
away go
record
for
would be
it.
counted. So I think
Track
they are
record would be
eligible.
in case of
If it is a conversion of partnership through a formal process and they restate their financials properly and as per the
So 10 years will be counted.
Indian GAAP, then it is allowed. They are allowed.
Avishkar, you have any issue in this?
No.
Okay.
So issue that one of two companies of ours faced while converting from partnership to public. Once they go public, their first quarter will not have a parallel equivalent. So many companies would feel, even when the DRHP numbers would reflect the partnership number as well, the revenues in during the partnership reign, and then 1 or 2 months of whatever that public limited was there. Once you get listed, it is very easy for the market to discount, saying that there is no past of the company when it comes to numbers. That brings a dissimilarity in the share price.
But Rohit, as soon as you are coming out with IPO, you have to restate your financials of last 3 years as well as the stub period as applicable. So those numbers would be available for comparing, and that will be similar to the India GAAP at which they are making.
Right. I'm just saying perception that builds up mostly.
Yeah.
People don't look at the past numbers, they only see there's no comparison, and so hence.
Okay. What is the approximate cost of listing on SME platform, Manoj? And what are the NSDL, CDSL annual charges?
So listing fee, the stock exchange takes around 50,000 rupees for as an IPO fee. So this is very small fee, and the NSDL CDSL basically is not basically there is no major cost involved in IPO, fixed cost other than the underwriting and the fundraising cost, which will be the largest component.
Okay. It's a rapid round, so we have to be
Yeah.
fast now. There are so many questions are pouring out. Acha, what is the lock-in for pre-IPO placement investor? That 1 year? Okay.
1 year, yeah.
Sometime it is said that company is in pre-IPO. What does, okay, this has,
I have already discussed, yeah.
this is already discussed. This is already discussed. Okay. Okay, now my proprietorship is firm is 12 years old, manufacturing. Recently, 2 years back, registered private limited company, another manufacturing. As a forward integration, do I club the credential of proprietorship firm as it's substantial and big to the private limited firm and move ahead with the IPO?
Yeah, it is always advisable to have single company of the same sector, same business line in the group, and that should come in the IPO. So if you are doing private business, then it is not advisable.
Okay. Avishkar, is it mandatory to migrate to main board if it is it compulsory?
Yes, after that satisfaction of the criteria or after 3 years. That
So suppose after 3 years, I cross 25 crore rupees, then I have to go compulsorily. I want to SME, it is not.
no.
So suppose I am not moving, the stock exchange will compulsorily put me on the.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any criteria to NSE that compliance officer having 2 years of post qualification is only eligible to be appointed as compliance officer?
No, sir. It's not.
Okay. Is it mandatory for have a PR for SME IPO, Rohit?
Not PR, but advertising. Yes, there are a couple of ads that need to come out, DRHP filing and the basis of allocation in the SME. And before that, there's the main board has. So PR is just the organic extension of that part.
Okay. Manoj, what is the minimum and maximum size of IPO?
There is no minimum or maximum size with respect to the fundraise. With respect to issue, as we have discussed, 25% of the post-issue capital should be floated to the public, and 0.5 or 5% of the total issue in case of SME should be given to the market maker. That is the minimum requirement. Fundraising, there is no requirement, no fixed requirement. So there can be 50 people who will subscribe to the issue, and let's say first one lot is rupees 1,10,000. So it will be 50 multiplied by 1,10,000. That would be the minimum size for issue.
Very tough question. I will not ask Avishkar. What is beneficial or ease of onboard NSE, emerge or VSC? I think we should avoid this question. Both are anybody.
Yes, both exchanges are now good and almost equal in size of number of issues which have come out. Obviously, the fundraising has happened larger in NSE emerge right now.
Okay.
Sir, I have a question considering this. Can a company file application on both the exchanges?
Yes, that he has already confirmed. Yes, both the exchanges.
Is there any case like who has done it?
Not yet. I think he has. Avishkar sir has.
But Avishkar, what is the reason that people have not filed in both the stock exchange?
It's the cost part of it, in the sense and typical, and then the eligibility criteria. Because say if you see, there are differences. We have that say in currently also FCFE and BSC may have other criteria. So satisfying both may be difficult for them.
Okay. For service industry, FAR criteria may not be met as service industry is not capital intensive. Alternative is human capital valuation. Any specific criteria requirement for human capital valuation?
That criteria is not applicable for NSE. So BSC is have put this, but I think if that is not getting met, I think better to go for NSE emerge, not to look at BSC there.
Okay. What is the valuation method, profit or turnover?
That is also very subjective. You have to determine the KPIs, and based on that, you have to disclose what method you have applied to determine the value and justify the value. Okay.
Is pre-IPO and PE SME? I think this question is not clear. Nikul, please write it again. Is there is 100% OFI still we need to satisfy the minimum promoter contribution? No, but I think They are 100% OFS mean the public portion, 25%.
Still need to.
So yes, and if it is not a professionally managed company and you are having identified promoter's contribution is mandatory.
Yeah. So if you're not, then 100%. Otherwise, you have to offer only 25%. 75% you have to maintain. What if the offer issue expense estimated in the prospectus exceed in actual? Whether there will be amount to deviation or same could be adjusted with general purpose. Avishkar?
So it means at this junction we have not observed any instances as such, but it means it cannot be adjusted that way. It means they will treat it as a deviation.
Okay. Query raised on DRHP are of the main board label queries. So do we have a refer main board offer document or preparation of DRHP? Exchange are also asking for content beyond Schedule 6.
Yeah, so
I guess you should
transparency
refer
is,
Schedule 6 of ICDR.
much.
Every
Okay.
offer document.
Okay. So is a pre-IPO allotment is in main board is also less than issue price?
Yes, generally.
Okay. Is valuation of SME IPO justified in recent times? Or overvaluation or fair valuation? It is hard that market maker manage investor for subscription and discount for to IPO. Price and investor dump after listing. What control exchange or SEBI has in this regard?
That's
So Avishkar, you have any question answer of this or
No.
okay, Manoj, you can give answer of this.
it's an opinion thing, and I think there are obviously bad people and good people everywhere. So there may
Okay.
be certain cases like this.
Okay. Do any NBFC can be anchor investor?
If they are bigger in size and they are systemically important NBFC, they are qualified as QIBs.
Okay. Do any individual Indian HNI investor can be anchor investor?
No.
Okay. A IT company with no tangible asset can be listed on BSE or only to go to the NSE?
NSC.
Okay. It is compulsory to
But tangible assets also includes cash and other investment, etc. It is not only there can be financial assets also. So it is not only about the immovable properties or plant and machinery.
okay. Is it compulsory to unpledge the share of promoter before filing DRHP?
That is totally between the banker or lender and company. So,
but have you received, Avishkar, any issue with where the promoter shares are pledged?
No.
Okay.
they will not be counted towards the contribution. So at
Yes.
least 20% of the post-issue capital should be free from pledge.
Any education qualification required for independent director? That is.
Yes, they have to give test and qualify to be independent director.
Okay. Ruchika, what are the post-listing compliances?
So all the provisions that are there in Companies Act and certain provisions of LODR need to be complied with. Of course, the corporate governance chapter doesn't get applicable.
Only thing is result you have to give 6 months in place of quarterly.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. How to value private limited company before IPO? Manoj.
But I have seen given you in our presentation that there are many factors based on the valuation is done. So it is
So,
very
Mr. Virendra Gupta, please, we will share this presentation. You please refer it. In case any question, you can come back to us again. What is the difference between working capital purpose and general purpose that we have already explained? What is the average time period for completing SME IPO?
Generally, it is 4 months from the kickoff, from the filing.
Avishkar, how much time stock exchange is taking?
So on typically in main board now it is around 30 days, and then SME the average comes at around 50-55 days.
Why this is this difference?
So that in the sense the quality of the document and it definitely impacts that particular time.
Okay, so this message is very clear that SME IPO people have to be improve their standard. Okay.
Yes.
What is the key difference between main IPO and SME IPO, Tushar?
It's the size of the IPO and the trading. The trading happens on lots. For main board companies, it does not happen in lots.
Okay, can BSE SME listed company go for NSE main board without BSE main board?
Yes. Migration, it can be done.
Migration, I think yes, it is allowed.
So our BSE listed company can go to
Cross migration is allowed. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
allowed.
Okay. Okay, so friends, we have received more than 45 plus 7, 52. Another question has come. What could be overall cost? This is also there. Overall cost of an SME IPO as a percentage of total IPO size, which is top 2 cost is overall cost. Manoj, what is the main cost?
The main cost is fundraising cost, obviously, the underwriter's fee.
Okay.
It is
How-
success-based fee.
Acha, how is no objection of customer and supplier for SME IPO obtained, Tushar?
To mention the name of our customers in the offer document, we have to procure NOCs from those customers that we want to proceed with an IPO and mention your name as our customer.
Okay, friends, we have already overshooting the 20 minutes. Now it's a time to close this. Before closing, I just want to take views from my speakers. I will start with Ruchika. Just 30 seconds each.
Sir, I think preparation is the key. So as everyone said, if you are well prepared, as Mr. Avishkar also mentioned, that if the merchant bankers are filing the document with quality, I think then probably it is very easy to raise fund and go listed. And, of course, it will add brand value and the promoters would also get recognized in the market. So I think preparation is the key for a successful IPO.
Tushar.
For a successful IPO, proper team is the key. The merchant banker, the RTA, the underwriters, PR agency, everybody.
Okay, Manoj.
Sir, so obviously those are very important factors, but the important thing is that SME market has given a new boost to the SME. SME IPOs are helping many of the companies to get fund at their right time. So I think this is the right thing, and if the companies are at right shape, they should go for SME IPO, and it is a growing market. It will help.
Okay, Rohit.
So the essence of SME IPO promoters are mostly challengers. And I think all the challengers have the inherent quality of looking beyond the challenges that they are faced with. So I think whatever the environment offers them, they will find a way to outshine. And that is exactly the future, what it holds. So I think that's a good thing.
Okay, final word, Avishkar, from your side.
Explain the document in detail and give clarity to the document so that we can also clear it faster.
Okay. So thank you all my panelists, and thank you all participants, those who have came in very large number. I just want to conclude this session by saying 2-3 important messages. Whenever this message is to especially the promoter and the professional, those who are bringing out the issue. First is build on a strong business model. You should not just bring like today there is things are going on, so people have started like the internet bubbles type things that I made a site and now I want to bring out the fundraising process. So you should have a strong business model. Compliance is non-negotiable. Stock exchange and SEBI will not leave you for any violation. That is sure. Investor trust is hard won and easily lost. That is another aspect, that you cannot play with this, that I will manage. Once you are losing, then no investor will come in future. And we have seen thousands of examples. Invest in infrastructure and capability. If you are bringing out issue, invest in infrastructure, mean your system, process, your things, your compliance level, your business model, your information, your results, everything should be very strong and very capable. And sometimes we see the DRHP and other things, a legal side process. No, business is very important. If you do business better, you will get growth. The long-term vision over short-term gains, you must think that you have to work for long-term, not the short-term gain which you are getting. Stock market is a सोने का अंडा देने वाली मुर्गी है. अगर आप इसको एक ही बार में लेना चाहते हो, तो you will kill, mean you will also lose everything. So this is, you have to nurture, you have to give result, you have to promote various things, and you have to communicate to the shareholders and the investor at large that this I'm doing and this is my future. Do it in the best way, and I think the future belongs to all of us, and everybody is getting a opportunity, whether it's a technical or whether it's a Indian market is booming. That's why, but we should not lose this particular opportunity, because this is one way the small business, the startup, they are now shifting from PE or VC to the stock market, because size is very small and you can tell this. And today's story is selling in the market. People are investing in new things that we have seen the way people are investing. With these things, I will stop here just to make the announcement that our next 193rd webinar on cybersecurity and cyber resilience framework for SEBI regulated entity will be held on 18th October, 4 p.m. Friday, to again welcome all of you for our webinars. Till then, thank you very much.